What is up everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be ranking all the Marvel MCU movies that were released between Phase 1 and Phase 3. Now, I have done this before with my friend Charlie. We did this on our podcast together, RIP Leftovers podcast. But we've done this before. I'll be intrigued to see how different it is then than we're about to do it now. But we are going to be doing it in the order that they were released in cinemas. We're not doing it in terms of chronological order, we're doing it in terms of release order, okay? It just makes the most sense. Starting with Iron Man. Now, this, I think there's no debate. This has to be S tier. I think it's the linchpin in the MCU. It's the one that started it all, the spark. It just makes sense to be an S tier. It's a great movie, a great hero origin story, a great cast. The standout obviously being Robert Downey Jr. It makes sense to be S tier, and I don't think there can be any arguments to that. Still stands up probably to this day as well amongst all the, not even just Marvel films, all the superhero films that we've had over the years. This still stands up as one of the all-time best. So S tier for me for Iron Man. The Incredible Hulk, the one that everyone forgets is in the MCU until recently with Brave New World, but yeah, the one that's just kind of forgotten about because it just barely connects to the MCU. This is a tricky one. It's the only standalone Hulk film we've had in the MCU. Obviously, we have had previous Hulk movies before as well, but it's not great. It's okay. But it's still not great. Obviously, Edward Norton as Bruce Banner, who then obviously got replaced by Mark Ruffalo. Thunderbolt Ross was a decent addition, but nothing great in this film. But I think I'm going to go with D. I just don't think it, like I said, it doesn't add anything to the MCU. A lot of loose ends, which were only dealt with recently, so for me, I just don't really think it's a great movie, and it's definitely one of those where, like, I think a lot of people are like, it's just, we'll just put it to one side. So The Incredible Hulk, D for me. Iron Man 2, obviously very quickly produced a sequel to Iron Man because Iron Man did very well and was a very good movie. It definitely does not stand up to Iron Man, but it's not terrible. I do actually think this is the weakest one out of the three in the Iron Man trilogy, which is why I'm going C. I think there's elements to it that are good. I like the kind of story that they went with Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark in this. I like the introduction of Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. Again, another brilliant casting choice. Not a huge fan of the villain, Whiplash. That's not great. And Justin Hammer, I think poorly executed. It would have been great to see him be like a different version of like Tony Stark, one that, like, you know, his suits don't go great and so he's annoyed at Tony and tries to get his own way, but he just comes across as like so C for me. Next we have Thor. I'm actually got a soft spot for Thor. I quite like this film. I don't know how well it's received, to be perfectly honest, but I think it's not terrible. I actually quite enjoyed it on my first viewing of it. Again, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, brilliant casting choice, same as Tom Hiddleston as Loki. What a different film this might have been if Tom Hiddleston became Thor. But I think, by the way, Tom Hiddleston, brilliant actor. He's brilliant as Loki, one of my favourite actors in the MCU, if not my favourite actor. But I think it's a good story. It's a great way to show Thor going through his character arc of don't be this arrogant god who thinks he can get away with anything. You actually need to learn a lesson, and he learns that lesson. And I think it's a nice story in showing a god needs to take some advice from humans. And I think in a way where, it's crazy to think that a Shakespearean god character can fit into this world. I think they did a pretty good job at, introducing him into this kind of franchise. So I'm going to go B. It's not Iron Man levels, obviously, and I think there's films in the MCU that we'll get to later that are better than it, but it does a decent job at introducing Thor, so B for me. Okay, next up, Captain America the First Avenger. Similar to Thor, I'm going to go B. I think they're kind of on par in terms of quality and storytelling and execution. Again, doesn't blow me away like Thor did, but still quite a good story. I think brilliant casting choices yet again. Chris Evans as Captain America, Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, even Hayley Atwell as Peggy Carter. I think brilliant choices all around, and it shows with the later films that they've been in. The Red Skull, to me, doesn't seem like a huge threat. I don't know if that's controversial or not. I just feel like he's taken down quite easily. But that's just my personal opinion. But overall, it's really cool to see Steve Rogers portrayed like this, and I think they've done a stellar job in his character. I think the story's a little bit but I think they're just trying to introduce him and be like, here's how he comes into present day. Okay, next up, the first Avengers movie. I think this is it's called Avengers, and I think in some places it's called Avengers Assemble, I think. But this is S tier. It's the same as Iron Man, it's S tier. To have the idea to bring all these characters to life and put them together in the same movie is insane, and for it to work is even more insane. The story works really well, the characters work really well together, you feel the chemistry on some of them, you feel the tension between some of them. I think everyone does a stellar job in this film. I think Loki as the villain works really well. I think setting it up for the future, it does really well, and I just think overall this film is brilliant. It's an ambitious project that pays off massively, and just showcase to everyone, this is the real deal now. This is superhero films starting to reach its peak. Nothing gets better than Avengers. Next up, Iron Man 3. I think, again, this is like a B film. I feel like I'm going to put quite a few of these films in B. But I think Iron Man 3, I know there's a lot of controversy around the Mandarin plot and the reveal that Guy Pearce's character, his name escapes me right now, but his reveal is that he's the Mandarin at the end of it. Obviously, at the end we know he's not. Not at the end of this. In Shang-Chi, we know he's not. But yeah, I don't know. It's not that it didn't sit right with me. I think Ben Kingsley's character, he does well it with, and it's great to see him in future products that are done his character justice. But I think it's an okay story. It's cool to see Pepper, I think, get a bit more of the spotlight in this. But I don't know. I feel like also the point of this story was to shed light onto Tony that he doesn't need his suits, and he doesn't need to have the arc reactor to, state his claim and, be Iron Man. And at the end of it, he destroys all his suits and he gets rid of his arc reactor for Pepper, and then just next Avengers film, Bobby's back in the Iron Man suit, and it's it kind of takes it a little bit away from it, but that's no fault of this film. But for me, B is still the answer. Thor: The Dark World. Oh god. I feel like it's not gotten better over the years. I think people have just started to hate it a bit less. And I don't know if that's because of Endgame, because Endgame kind of tied in with some of the stuff. But I think this is just an absolute mess. There's some bits I like in this film. Again, like Chris Hemsworth, I think Loki is probably the best part about this film. Tom Hiddleston, again, does a stellar job. And I think there was initial screenings of this film where like Loki dies and it doesn't show him being Odin at the end or whatever. And everyone was like, where's Loki? We know Loki's not dead or whatnot. So they kind of did the scene with him being Odin later on. But I mean, oh god, I know there was a lot of issues behind the scenes with production, with the director changing, and Natalie Portman not being happy. So it kind of felt like this was destined to not be great. I'm gonna put it in D, but if I'm gonna have to put a film in F, I think it will be that one. Or maybe it might even be Hulk. I don't know yet. But I think everyone does a good performance, but it doesn't help with the film. The story isn't great, and let's just move on. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. From one bad film to a brilliant film. This is really where I think the MCU kind of started to showcase its real potential and real, like, how far this franchise can go. And it's always funny when we hear them go, oh yeah, this is like Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Yeah, this is like the espionage like Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And it just doesn't compare, because Captain America: The Winter Soldier is just a brilliant film and it's an S tier for that. This is probably the best Captain America film. I think, again, everyone does a stellar job with it, and I think even if you haven't watched the comics, haven't read the comics, and you don't know the reveal of Bucky being the Winter Soldier, I think if you just watch these films, I think that could potentially work, and you would have that surprise. But I mean, even without that, this film really does well. I think Steve Rogers, Chris Evans as Steve Rogers, brilliant performance, great introduction with Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson, and I think Scarlett Johansson has a brilliant role as well in this. Great to see Nick Fury in this film as well, and the story as well is brilliant, and the whole kind of reveal that Hydra never died and it lived on, just phenomenal. And I think it deserves all the praise it gets. Winter Soldier, and S tier, one of the best films in the MCU, no doubt about it. Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm gonna go A. I think it, again, similar to the Avengers, having a team like a team like this, not even that, just trying to introduce this team into the franchise, where yes, we've had gods, yes, we've had super soldiers and whatnot, and we've had elves and magic and whatnot, to then say we're going to go cosmic with this, we're going to go into space, and we're going to introduce this team where it has a talking tree, a talking raccoon. Again, it shouldn't work, but it does. And to kind of change the tone of it and make it more of a comedic film, add more laughs, add more comedy into it, it works really well, and it works well with this team. And James Gunn does a brilliant job. Again, the cast, you can't really fault it. And just the whole, like, just even the introduction scene where it's Peter Quill as a kid with his mum, shows the emotional side of this film, and then it goes into Peter Quill, present day, as an adult, dancing to his cassette tape. Again, like, just shows off the comedic side of this film, and it really is a good blend between them both. I think the villain is a little bit weak. Ronan, I think, not saying that he's a bad villain, or he's portrayed as a bad villain. I think just he's not portrayed enough in this film. It would have been good to see him feel like a bit more of a threat. But I think overall this film does really well. It's great chemistry between the team by the end of it, and sad to see Groot die. Well, not die, but you know what I mean. Sacrifice himself for the team. Oh, emotional. Absolutely emotional. Guardians of the Galaxy, A tier for sure. Avengers Age of Ultron. I know this is the weakest one out of the Avengers films, but I still don't think it's bad. I actually really enjoyed Avengers Age of Ultron. I know it's not really Age of Ultron, and I know all sorts of things, but I still really enjoyed this film. It's just fun. I just found it fun and enjoyable. The Hulkbuster fight is great. I like how they try to disconnect the team and kind of tear them apart a bit. I like Hawkeye being a bit more of a prominent role in this. I know they did it because they were going to kill him off at the end of it, but then they decided to Quicksilver. I get it. I know. But it was still good to see him feature a bit more of a prominent role when he didn't really get that chance in the first Avengers film. So, I'm going to put it A tier. And people might think that's a bit controversial, but I really enjoyed Age of Ultron. I think, again, it was a fun story. The way they introduced Vision was cool, and I just enjoyed it. I just found it fun, and like, I know some parts of it didn't make sense, and some part of the story doesn't really work, but I just enjoyed it, and I just had fun with it, and that's all I can ask for from the film. Ant-Man. I actually watched this when this came out in cinemas. This was a load of fun. This was really enjoyable. A lot of laughs. And again, just brilliant casting choices all round. Again, I think similar to Guardians of the Galaxy, the villain isn't that great in terms of how it's portrayed. I think seems a bit weak. But I think the film is great. The way they go about showing off the shrinking, growing of stuff is brilliant, and it's fantastic and funny when they do it. Like Thomas the Tank Engine just becomes massive funny, and Ant becomes massive funny. They do it really well. The training sequence is really cool. Make it like a heist. Brilliant idea. I think it's great all round. I'm gonna go A tier. I'm gonna put it above Avengers Age of Ultron. I had a lot of fun with this. I rewatched this recently as well. It's a load of fun. Captain America Civil War. I know I said Captain America the Winter Soldier is the best Captain America film. This is a very close second. I'm going to put it S tier. But I think Captain America the Winter Soldier is a bit better just because it's just a bit different. And it works. But Civil War is brilliant as well. Again, very ambitious in terms of what the story is trying to tell. Obviously, it's not exactly like to comic, but it fits into the world that the MCU has built up at this point. It makes sense. You can see the arguments from both sides, and also try and incorporate Zemo as a villain in this. He definitely feels like secondary, but the way his logic behind it, and his his kind of purpose, the purpose for doing it makes sense. And he's kind of gone, I know I can't do this, so I'm just going to get you all to just go against each other instead. brilliant. Is a great idea, and he does that very well, and obviously achieves it, and kind of affects them a bit more long term. And I think everyone kind of gets their flowers in this film. I think everyone is portrayed quite well, and they introduce Spider-Man, so I can't really fault it. And Tom Holland's a brilliant casting choice as Spider-Man. I can't fault it. Doctor Strange, again, brilliant casting choice with Benedict Cumberbatch. I think he does a really good job with Doctor Strange. Visually, this film is phenomenal. I've never seen visuals like it, and just it just blows my mind how they managed to pull it off. I didn't really know what to expect when going into this film, and I left pleased, but still like not sure. I left pleased, but still not really sure on if I had enough from the film, if I actually gained enough from the film. And I think that's more of a me issue than it is the film's issue. I feel like the villain was. I think the villain was okay. I feel like in some of these films the villain is kind of secondary to the plot. I feel like it's very much, let's introduce this character and let's make it about him, and then just kind of be like, the villain we'll get to later. But I think Benedict Cumberbatch is a great choice. Rachel McAdams is great. Mads Mikkelsen, I think, I wish to see him in more of this stuff because he's a brilliant actor. I'm gonna go B. I'm going to put it at the top of B just because of the visuals, but I think it's definitely similar to kind of like your Thor and Captain America the Winter Soldier, where like it's a great introduction to the character, the story is fine, and the villain is a bit secondary. It's like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This one's definitely the weakest one in the trilogy. Again, I probably need to watch this again, but I like the dynamic between Gamora and Nebula, and they're still rivals and whatnot, but they kind of they kind of learn to agree to disagree. They kind of learn to hate each other but also love each other. And yeah, I think Peter turning on the Guardians quite easily, I don't think that's great. I absolutely agree, like there should be this, that it makes sense to have some sort of friction between them, absolutely. But I think for Peter to just completely disregard Gamora and everyone else and just be like, yeah, whatever, I think it's a bit like on the nose. But also I fully feel the emotion behind Yondu and his death, and I think they did that very well. I think some of the jokes are funny. I think a couple of the jokes fall a bit flat. And obviously there's a lot of post-credit scenes in this film, and that's like, what the hell? It's not better than the first. I'm going to put it top of B. I think that, I don't know, is that controversial? I don't really know. Spider-Man Homecoming. This, I enjoyed a lot. I think the portrayal of Peter Parker is done quite well. I don't think it's perfect, because I know obviously there's the criticism of Iron Kid as much as it is Spider-Man, which I do agree on. And Tony being Peter's mentor probably isn't the best. I think Tony does make a great point after the boat scene where, like, if you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it. Absolutely makes sense, and Peter learns that lesson. But it's just that he learns it from Tony, and it's like, well, Tony went through that lesson in Iron Man 3 where he just ordered suits and then he's back to having suits again in the next film. It doesn't really make much sense to me. But I think Peter learns that lesson and he realises actually it's not about being an Avenger, it's about being Spider-Man, it's about being your own thing and just helping people, essentially. Michael Keaton as the Vulture is incredible. He does a brilliant performance, and the reveal of him being oh my god, why can't I remember her name? I can't remember her name. And the whole reveal of him being Peter's love interest's dad, I'm saying that because I can't remember her name, and the scene in the car, brilliant, just brilliant from both Michael Keaton and Tom Holland. But yeah, and Peter made the right choice, so you know, he learned his lesson at the end, and it's just great. I think it's great, and again, it's got a good comedy, but also good action, good story, and a good, you know, good core to it. And it's good to see a Peter Parker that actually feels like a high school kid. Okay, as much as I love Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, they're not. They didn't feel like, you know, high school kids. Tom Holland did. And that's one good thing about. That's another good thing about this film. I'm gonna go A. I'll put it above Avengers just because it's Spider-Man. Thor Ragnarok. From going from one of arguably the worst films in the MCU to arguably one of the best films in the MCU, Thor Ragnarok is brilliant. It's funny. It's a great take on Thor and a great shake-up, really, that I think the character needed at this time. It's a great incorporation of Planet Hulk or World War Hulk, the storyline there, and it's great to just see it, and it looks like everyone has fun, and that's great to see. You know, Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston, again, brilliant performances from them. Great to have Mark Ruffalo around as well, on board with that. Tessa Thompson, brilliant as well. I think her portrayal of Valkyrie is... I think it's fine, but it's just like... I know the whole, like, drinking stuff is probably for laughs. I don't know, I found it a little bit... Oh. But then later on, when the whole flashback happened with her and Hela, it made a bit more... Excuse me, it made a bit more sense, but I don't know. I think that's just me being me. Overall, though, great. I just think Hela isn't, like, she just ended up being a whatever villain. I think she's just heavily unutilized. Is that a word? I don't know. But I think she's just heavily unutilized in this film, and yeah. But with all that being said, it's going top of A. I had a lot of fun with Thor Ragnarok. Like I said, it's done really well, and Taika Waititi did a brilliant job. And then they just ruined it with Thor: Love and Thunder. But anyway, Black Panther. I mean, it's got to be S tier, right? I just think you don't get much better than Black Panther. This is one of those rare instances in one of the superhero films where the villain is portrayed really well, and you actually can turn around and go, I get where he's coming from, but he's just gone a bit too far with his logic there, which is brilliant. Like, if you can somewhat sympathise with the character, you're doing it right. And I think we were originally at the point where the villains didn't feel villainly enough, and we couldn't really get there. We couldn't see where they were coming from. This is where it kind of changed that and kind of saw, oh, we now see where the villains are coming from. We understand where the villain is. They've just gone a bit too far beyond that. They've gone a bit too over the edge. to where they've now gone bad, but we see where they're coming from. And Black Panther does it really well. Infinity War does it really well with Thanos. And then it kind of just has gone to a point where it's now feels like every villain we kind of have to sympathise with, but actually, no, we now want to kind of go back to, no, we just want a villain to be a villain now. But anyway, that's a side rant. Black Panther. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Chadwick Boseman, R.I.P. I almost said the word again. Just outstanding. He's sorely missed as Black Panther. I think everyone puts in a stellar performance yet again. I can't really fault this film. It's a really good, fun, enjoyable ride, and just absolutely stunning, glorious visuals, glorious cinematography, brilliant by Ryan Coogler as director, brilliant by Chadwick Boseman, brilliant by Michael B. Jordan, brilliant by all of them. Avengers Infinity War, again, like, just S tier, just has to be. I'm even going to go above the first. I actually, no, I'm going to go above it all. I think this is brilliant. I like the first Avengers film was really ambitious in terms of getting all these characters, putting them all together. This takes it another step further, and it works brilliantly. And to have, I mean, I know this isn't the end of it, but like to have all these films and then starting to now kind of begin the process of putting it all together, letting them all cross over, and for it to actually work and for it to actually pay off is incredible. And to end with the villain winning, which everyone was just thinking, nah, probably won't end with that. And then just be like, no, we're going to end with Thanos actually winning. We're just going to do it. Like, it's done. Thanos actually having a point. And it's like, yeah, well, we're running out of resources, and eventually we're just going to keep, eventually we're just going to run out. And it's like, yeah, he's right. And it's like, well, what's the best way to sort that out? Well, it's probably to get rid of half of humanity. And what's the best way of doing that? Well, it's random. It's, with a snap of the finger, it's random. It's done quick, painless, I guess. Like, it's the fairest way to do it, I suppose. But it's just the fact that everyone's like, well, you're getting rid of half of humanity. You're basically killing people. Like, no, we can't do that. So, yeah, I think it's done really well. And, some surprises in there. Obviously, the ending, like I said, surprising, and how many of them went. And I think my biggest surprise was actually Gamora dying. Like, I really did not expect that at all. And also the dynamics between characters as well. Like, you wouldn't think the Guardians of the Galaxy and Iron Man and Doctor Strange would all work together, but it does, because Doctor Strange and all those characters have a bit of the arrogance about them, and obviously the Guardians have a bit more of the comedic aspect, and it just works really well together. And same with the team on Earth. Like, there's a bit more, they bring a bit more of the seriousness to the side, and a bit more like, right, we need to focus, we need to make sure we fight, we do it right. And then Thor's entry into Wakanda, that just is the cherry on top of this cake, because that is a brilliant entrance, arguably the best entrance in any film, let alone Marvel. Ant-Man and the Wasp. This is, see, right, the thing is I actually watched this again recently. I watched the first two Ant-Man films. I didn't watch Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania again. We'll get into that. Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think this film doesn't get the plaudits it deserves. It's definitely not as good as the first Ant-Man, I will say that. But I think again, I've really enjoyed this and I had a lot of fun with it. It was always going to struggle because of Infinity War. It was always going to be on the back foot when that film comes out after Infinity War. And when it's not based around Infinity War, it's very difficult as well, because when you've seen Infinity War, you're like, we need to know what happens. And, you know, this film just is like well, let's enjoy this story first. And it is just a fun journey. It's a fun journey. It's a fun story. It's a great dynamic. Like I said, it's not as good as the first one. I'm gonna put it top of B, but I did enjoy this. I think again the villain is a bit and I think it's just one of those where it's like she's just evil because the story needs her to be evil. If they just turned around and went, if we can just get my wife back, we'll help you and we can help you fix this. We'll let you have all the quantum energy and whatnot. But like it's just this whole like miscommunication thing that just, I think they just try and blow a bit more out of proportion. I like the jokes in this. I think it's very funny and I think it's done really well. And I like seeing all the stuff get big, like the Pez dispenser get big and the car shrinking and whatnot. I think a lot of it was ruined in the trailer, but still doesn't defeat the point that it's quite a good film. Captain Marvel. You see, I don't know how I feel about Captain Marvel, because again, it suffers the same thing as Ant-Man and the Wasp, where like it's coming after Infinity War and it's coming before Endgame, and it's like it's in that middle part where it like people expect this to be something bigger than I think it actually was. And that's why I think people were disappointed. So when I went to watch this, hearing that people weren't that pleased by it, I was like, actually, this isn't that bad. I quite enjoy it. I think the de-aging of Nick Fury looks really good. I think the dynamic between Nick Fury and Carol Danvers is also very good. Again, I think it was a bit of fun. I'm going to go B. I'd rather watch Thor than Captain Marvel. I'm going to go there. I think, again, like I like the dynamic between Nick Fury and Carol Danvers. I like the dynamic between them and... Oh, God, I can't remember the Skrull's name. The main Skrull. I like their dynamic as well. But I don't know. It's not my favourite. It doesn't blow me away. It's just like the same as these. It doesn't blow me away, but it's to introduce a character and it's fine. That's it. It's just fine. Avengers Endgame. It's S tier. It's just whereabouts in S tier is it? I don't think it's better than Infinity War. I think just because like I think it's just because like I could rewatch Infinity War again and again and again and enjoy it just as much. I think with Endgame, I can still enjoy it, but like I won't be able to enjoy it as much as I watched it the first time round, where you got to see Captain America wield Mjolnir for the first time. You got to experience it from the very beginning. You don't get that excitement from the very first time as you did that, and that's no fault of the film, I know, but it's one of those where like as soon as you watch it for the first time, it will never be as good as you watching it again. Like none of the other times will be as good. I'm gonna go there just because I also want a non-Avengers film to be above it as well. I'm gonna put Iron Man there. Like I said, it does so much right, and I think Captain America's ending is very good. I really hope they don't ruin it with Doomsday. I'm praying. But I think that's very good. I think Tony sacrificing himself, I think that makes the most sense. I always thought going into it was either going to be him or Captain America that will die. I just didn't know who it would be, and the way they did it, the way that it was Tony, and the fact he said I am Iron Man, and then that, like, oh my god, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Would not change it at all. It's S tier for sure. It's just that you're never going to get the excitement that you had the first time seeing it again. And again, that's no fault of the film. It's just the way it is. Spider-Man Far From Home. Again, I think it suffers a little bit from post-Endgame stuff. Like, I just think, again, like, you've had Endgame, and it's this big film, and then you've got Spider-Man Far From Home. I think it does really well. I think I need to look at it in terms of just itself. I think it does really well. Mysterio is brilliant in this. I don't think there's enough like Peter Parker stuff in this. I know there's the whole like romance plot thing, but when we saw in like at the start of it, it was in Homecoming. Sorry, we had Peter trying to, learning the lesson of, it's not the suit that makes you, it's you that makes Spider-Man, and learning that lesson was great, and he had that kind of beginning, middle, and end to that. To then have this, and it's like there's not actually much with Peter. It's not. Actually now I think about it, I guess it's like he didn't believe he was right to be like the heir to Iron Man. And then you had Mysterio coming in, he was like, yep, you're right, he's the heir to Iron Man. And so you give him Edith, you give him the glasses and whatnot, and then you realise, oh no, I've made a mistake, he's actually bad. And you rectify it at least. I guess that's the lesson he learns. Either top of B or A, bottom of A. I'm going to go top of A. No, sorry, bottom of A, sorry. I'm going to go bottom of A. I still prefer Homecoming to it, but I'm going to go bottom of A for it. Am I happy with that? I think so. I think I am. I don't know. I like... If I had to put one in F, I think it'd be the Incredible Hulk, just because, like, it doesn't... Like, I feel like if you take the Incredible Hulk away, besides Brave New World, you like, it doesn't really add anything to the story. Like, it doesn't add anything to the franchise. And like I said, people forget. I know I've put For the Dark World, I guess, but I'll do that. But like I said, like I know it's technically an MCU movie, but it doesn't feel like an MCU movie. It's very much just there. But I think I'm happy with it. There's probably quite a lot in S, probably a bit too much. Let me do that actually. You could make an argument for, I guess, Civil War being A, I guess, I don't know, but yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I don't think I want to change anything. No, I don't want to change anything. Do I want to change anything? No, I'm okay, I think. That was my tier list. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. Let me know where you'd rank all of these films as well. I'm going to do another one where it's phase 4 and 5. I didn't want to do them all because that would have been way too many for one video. So we'll do phase 4 and 5 another time. But anyway, thank you everybody so much for watching. If you did enjoy, leave a like on the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thank you everybody so much for watching again, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care everyone, and goodbye.